Not cut it out. And then come towards the rollers.
Thank you, fathers.
You're holding it in your hand.
Let me make sure where it's not, where it must be. Okay.
Are we good?
We'll go ahead and level. Does everybody have a folder? Okay, we are going to begin the services for Mr. Stephen Pulik. If you have a cell phone, I'd ask you kindly to place it in the silent mode or turn it completely off at this time. I also like to welcome friends and extended family via live stream. On behalf of the family, thank you as well. Services will be conducted by Rabbi Toby Manowith.
Okay, yeah. I think I'm taller than I am. So we're going to start the service actually with a private moment. So if you're watching on live stream, you might see me move off camera for a minute. The very first thing that we'll do many, many years ago, and some still contemporary, but it was far more common then, that when someone heard of a death, they would rip their clothes. They would rend their clothes in mourning. Some Jewish people still do that today, and then wear those clothes for the next 7 days as a sign of mourning. Many modern Jews feel a little bit more attached to their clothing and don't rip their clothing, but instead wear a black ribbon, and we rend that instead. So I know that you're wearing a black ribbon. In a moment, I'm going to move off camera quickly, and we're going to tear that ribbon and say a few words. What I just said very quietly were the words that Job speaks. Job says, Adonai Natan v'Adonai Lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai Mavarach. God gives us wonderful things, and God takes them away. And both in the giving and in the taking away, we feel blessed. We feel blessed when something or someone is given to us, and when something is taken away, we feel blessed by the memories of that person. Okay. We begin with some passages from our tradition. I have set God always before me. God is at my side. I shall not be moved. Therefore does my heart exult and my soul rejoice. My being is secure. For you will not abandon me to death, nor let your faithful ones see destruction. You show me the path of life. Your presence brings fullness of joy. Enduring happiness is your gift. Death has taken our beloved Stephen. Our friends grieve in their darkened world. In their silence, there is lamentation. In their tears, there is loneliness. Lost in their sorrow, may they find the presence of loving friends. For Steve's love that has united us in life, which death cannot sever. For his companionship that we shared along life's path, and which continues through the tenderness of memory. for the gifts of his heart and the mind that brought us joy and happiness, and is now a precious remembrance. For all these and more, we give our thanks. You have in your booklet Psalm 23. If you will recite it with me now. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in the straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of God forever. It is customary at a funeral to share words about the deceased. So as much as I have gotten to know Steve through Arlen, I'm going to share a few of Arlen's memories and words today. Stephen Pulik was born in Chicago in 1945 and grew up in South Shore. Steve didn't have a lot of opportunities to socialize as a kid. His sister was 6 years older and always at a different life stage than her baby brother. His father worked long hours as a pharmacist, often missing family dinner. His mother was reticent to allow children in her home. So, at 10 or 11 years old, Steve, wanting playmates, went over to the YMCA all by himself one Saturday. He knew there'd be other kids there playing ball. He went every Saturday for years to come. Steve wasn't one to sit still and wait for opportunities to come his way. Without his parents' knowledge, he auditioned for and was accepted into a prestigious youth orchestra with whom he would play for years. Steve began his high school at the neighborhood public school, South Shore, but went on to graduate from the Harvard School for Boys, a private school at which he was able to get individualized attention. Many years later, he learned that this was paid for by a generous aunt who understood his promise. Steve enlisted in the U.S. Navy and served as a personnel man on both the USS Lawrence and the USS Beale, each of them spending time in the Mediterranean. Before leaving for his initial training, he went to visit his best friend for a weekend at Drake. His best friend couldn't leave his girlfriend at home for the weekend. Not wanting to be a third wheel, she invited her roommate, Arlen, whom she insisted just had to meet Steve. Arlen took an immediate liking to Steve. He was a little bit slower to warm. When he came for his second visit before shipping out, he fell for Arlen. While he was away, he and Arlen wrote to one another as often as they could. When he was on leave, he would come to see her every chance he got. He would fly standby or hitchhike, whatever it took. Over these many visits, Arlen's family became like family to him. They were warm and loving. They worried that he would be safe when traveling, often rushing him to the airport to catch a flight, and at least on one occasion giving him bus fare so he wouldn't have to hitchhike. The April before he was to finish his second tour on ship, he sent Arlen a letter saying that he thought they should get married. Though they hadn't been together for more than a total of 2 months the whole time they knew each other, Arlen's family helped her plan a wedding. They were married in the summer and settled in Corpus Christi, where Steve was stationed at the Naval Air Station. Some people said that Steve married Arlen for her entire family. After 2 years, in Corpus Christi, they moved to Kalamazoo, Michigan, where Steve began a successful career as a research administrator. While this might sound like a somewhat rote desk job, it was nothing of the sort. Steve helped countless people find and successfully apply for grants across many fields of research. While at Western Michigan University, Steve completed both his bachelor's and master's degrees. He continued this work at the University of Oklahoma Health Science Center and the University of Tennessee. He was a lifelong member of the Society of Research Administrators and served as the president of the Midwest section from 1992 to 1993. Arlen was not always thrilled by their moves, with the exception of their brief return to Chicago when Steve set up the research office at the newly established Children's Hospital. They both enjoyed being near family. Steve rekindled his relationship with his sister. They learned they had more in common than they had ever known. They, along with Arlen, remained close until her death. Whether they lived in married housing or had their own place, Steve paved the way for friendship. He was the master of chit-chat, so much so that Arlen ought to have to give him a sign or a gentle nudge telling him that it was time to go. He also got to know neighbors because he spent so much time outside. The moment the weather would warm, Steve was outside tending his lawn. He was meticulous about lawn care. He wasn't interested in flowers or landscaping, but his lawn was perfectly grown and perfectly kept. Steve talked to everyone who walked by and opened the door to many friendships. If Arlen were to meet someone new in the neighborhood, she would describe Steve, and invariably, they had already met him. Oh yeah, we know that guy. Steve was an avid bowler for a number of years in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. In more recent years, he loved researching different topics on his computer and sharing his knowledge with others. Steve enjoyed life. He enjoyed time spent with Arlen in the nearly 54 years that they were married. He enjoyed time with friends. He took pride in his work, supporting so many academics and doctors over the years. Our tradition asks, "Who is rich?" and answers, "He who rejoices in his lot," as it is said, "You shall enjoy the fruit of your labors, you shall be happy, and you shall prosper." By those standards, Steve was certainly an incredibly rich man. We continue with the following words. I lift up my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your protector will not slumber. See, the protector of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian. God is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon at night. God will guard you from all harm. God will guard your soul, your going and your coming forever. We ask now that everyone take a moment in silent remembrance. We rise. Okay. El Malei Rachamim Shochen Bamromim Hamse Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei Ashchina Kiroshim Tehorim Kizhor Harakia Mazhirim Et Nishmat Steve Shalach Leolamo Bal Harachamim Yastirenu Beseter Kanfav Leolamim Ad yitzror b'tzror chaim et nishmato. Adonai hu nachalato. V'yanuach b'shalom al mishkavo. V'nomar amen. Compassionate God, eternal spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering peace to Steve Pulik, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace, and let us say, Amen. You can be seated. We're going to take a few moments now to lower the casket into the ground. After we do, we'll invite everyone who chooses to put earth in the ground, and we'll say one final prayer. Yeah, of course. For those watching on live stream, it's going to get loud for a minute as they put the cover over the casket. So what we'll do now is shovel earth into the ground. We do this for a number of reasons, but mostly we do it because, first because that's the way that it's been done for years. But also we do it because in life we do so many things for other people, and then they do for us, right? We bring soup when someone's sick, they bring soup when we're sick. And this is a last honor that we can give to someone that they can't pay back. And so it's an important mitzvah, commandment in Jewish life. What we'll do is, first I have earth from the land of Israel. In Jewish custom, the idea is that when there is peace on earth, and there is an ingathering of exiles, that the very first place that people will be is the land of Israel. And so in Jewish custom, we bury people with just a little bit of earth from the land of Israel so that they can be the first to enjoy the peaceful times. Then I'll invite the family, first the more immediate family, and then anyone else who wants to put earth in the ground. There are two customs. One is to use the shovel backwards. Now, using the shovel backwards isn't very efficient, but what it does is it says, I'm doing this because it's important for me to do, but it's not a task I want to do. And so we use the shovel backwards, at least at first, to show that this is something we're reticent to do. The second part of the custom on that same theme is we don't hand the shovel from one to each other. Again, I'm not happy to be giving this to you. So I'll stand near, and if you can put it back in the dirt, that's fine. And if you can't, I'll stand near. The last thing that I'll say is that the ground is a little bit uneven, so please, your safety is the most important thing. Okay, so I'm gonna, Arlen and her sisters come forward. And then as soon as they're done, there's shovels on either side. I invite anyone else who'd like to come forward. There are shovels on either side. For sure. that incredibly holy task being completed, we say the mourner's Kaddish together. It's customary to rise if you're able to rise. Right, and it's in your booklets for those who need. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'emru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevorach li'alam alalmei omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha b'richu la'elam min kol berchata v'shirata tush bechata v'nechemata da'amiran ba'alma v'imru amen. Yehesh lama Rabbah min Shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. You can be seated. May God grant peace to all those who mourn and comfort all of the bereaved among us. When we were shoveling the earth, you may have noticed that it was very heavy. Of course, our hearts are very heavy. But one of the reasons that it's heavy is because it's been raining so much in Chicago. And one of the things that we say when people leave a cemetery, leave a funeral, is we say, may you go forth in peace to life. And we know that your life won't immediately start up the way that it was, before this terrible sorrow. But one of the things that I'm reminded of when the ground is so wet is that any minute now in Chicago, even though it's cold today, there'll be life. There'll be life everywhere. That it feels cold and wet, but in a moment you'll look around and there'll be beautiful flowers and beautiful lawns. We say, as we end, go your way, for God has called you. Go your way, and may God be with you. May your righteousness go before you, and have God receive you. May you go forth in peace to life.
This does conclude the service. The family would like to invite everyone here to Max and Benny's, 461 Waukegan Road in Northbrook. That address is on the folders. If you didn't get one, you can see me. This does conclude the service. Thank you.